You're listening to Big World Network.
Kai's Inquisition, The Blight of Shadowfall. Season 2, Episode 1. Written and read by Ton Krakowski. Reynard and Kai had mere moments to act before the cannibals reached them. Having no qualms about leaving his companion convulsing on the forest floor, he was not strong enough to lift her even if he cared to. Reynard stood with the intention of fleeing toward the bend in the road where he had asked Chajek to set up snares. Running and hiding was, after all, what he did best. As he straightened, however, he saw that the savages had halted before the rickety cage containing a red-headed, unconscious female in the center of the huts. One large and formidable specimen stepped forward, opened the cage, and bent to grab the prisoner by the arm and yank her to her feet. "What in the name of Vohenar are they doing?" Reynard invoked the name of the patron god of assassins and thieves under his breath. He paused to watch as the warrior holding Brivis pulled her from the cage and shoved her in his direction toward the opening in the pitiful fence surrounding the village. Suddenly awake and free, Brivis ran headlong toward safety, her red hair flying behind her like a cloak. The warriors bellowed with glee and began to chase her, seeming to enjoy the sport of once again hunting the hapless elf. As he tried to make sense of the cannibal's actions, the wrongness of it all pierced Reynard's confusion. Brivis's body seemed more muscular, less lean and willowy than he recalled. Rooted in place indecisively, he noticed that her hairline began further back on her head, and as she closed the distance, he could see that the skin on her face seemed loose. Oh no. Son of a whore! Reynard's curse shook the cobwebs from his mind. He turned and raced back the way he had come, the image of the cannibal wearing Brivis's face as a mask, spurring him to speeds he never imagined he could attain on his tiny legs. The searing pain racking every inch of Kai's being was abruptly washed away by a cool wave of euphoria. She opened her eyes in relief, and inexplicably found herself gazing down at her own prostrate, senseless form. "This suffering is not meant for you, my child," an androgynous voice, chilly and powerful, spoke in her head. "You honor me, but I will accept the burden now." An ancient magic born of an even more ancient foe had cloaked this idol from my eyes, but now that the veil has been lifted, the evil that has attacked my domain has been revealed. You must return this effigy to my lost temple in Shadowfall. The farmer who plows the tide will guide you. Smite my enemies, Kai Amari. It is my will. Kai sputtered awake and sprang to a seated position. Her body throbbed with divine power and righteous fury. Although she was disoriented from the shift in perspective resulting from her spirit rejoining her body, she had no doubt that Naderu had finally spoken to her. The first thing she realized as she regained her senses is that she was alone. Reynard was nowhere to be found. Then the hoots of the approaching cannibals caught her ears. She scrambled to her feet and swung into the nearest tree without bothering to see how close they were. She knew that holding a higher position would give her an advantage, allowing her to pick off her attackers without having to fight at close range. She would also be able to more clearly see the statue on the platform, stained with the sticky, congealing blood of Captain Rydal, and keep track of its location. Once Kai settled into a suitable junction in the tree, she prepared her bow and took her first glance at the approaching horde, now less than 10 paces from her perch. At first, the sight of the creature pretending to be Brivis threw her, but she swiftly saw through the ruse and skewered it through the throat. Some of the attackers tried to climb up after Kai as she rained arrows down upon them, But after the first two received missiles guided by divine fury through the top of their skulls, they quickly gave up and crashed through the underbrush past her toward the path in hopes that her companions would be easier quarry. Unchallenged for the moment, Kai drew an arrow back to take aim at the hunched figure who had been chanting over the statue of Naderu at the now-dead captain's feet. As she did so, her target vanished with a mocking cackle, taking the idol right along with it, leaving the dais empty of all but Rydal's corpse and the traitor Stone Skull. Reynard's ambush had yielded better results than they could have anticipated. Each of the 5 traps that he had salvaged along the trail now dangled a cannibal above the forest floor, helplessly subjected to a deadly barrage of stabbing and bashing blows delivered by Jack and Pia. While the women made short work of those caught in the snares, the 2 halflings held their own by working together. Chajek would engage a warrior, taunting and feinting with his jeweled dagger while staying just out of reach, long enough for Reynard to slip in behind him and surgically place a blade in a vital spot. In this manner, a few more of the cannibals were dispatched with only minor injuries to the castaways. Unfortunately, their luck did not hold out much longer. As Chajek spun away from one attacker, another cannibal mimicked the thief's flanking maneuver and caught the bard under the chin with a spear. Chajek opened his mouth to scream, but only blood escaped past his lips. The savage tugged at the spearhead, removing it with a wet slurping noise, and leered down at his dying victim. The triumphant expression remained on the cannibal's severed head even after Jack swept it from his body with her falchion. Kai could only hope that her companions would be able to defeat the horde of cannibals on their own. As much as she longed to help them, her choice was clear. She had to go after the golden statue. She adjusted her aim to mark Stone Skull and loosed, putting an arrow through a boot and pinning him to the platform. He shrieked in pain and toppled backward, making it almost easy for Kai to pin his opposing palm to the wood in turn. Kai deftly leapt from the branches, hit the ground, bent her knees, and rolled a few times to dissipate her momentum. She ran through the now empty village to the stage and jumped up to land on her feet next to the restrained and sobbing sailor. She kicked him hard in the ribs, eliciting a satisfying grunt of pain from the boorish man, which made him cry even harder. "And yet even as a traitor you act surprised by how you meet your end," Kai muttered as she kicked him once more for good measure. She wanted to be sure his tears were genuine. "Now, you pathetic, steaming pile of dung," she purred, grinding a boot heel into the hand not pinned to the platform with an arrow and letting her training take over. "I can ease your pain and offer you swift justice for your actions, or I can increase your suffering tenfold. Which course of action I take is entirely up to you. All you have to do is answer my questions truthfully. Do not insult me with lies. I will know." "Let me go," he blubbered. "I don't know nothin'." "Oh, come now. We both know that isn't true," Kai said sweetly. She sighed dramatically. "I suppose I'll have to provide you with a demonstration to prove how serious I am about this." She casually shot an arrow through his undamaged palm, affixing him spread-eagle to the dais. Then she secured her bow to her back and retrieved her trident. With a flourish, she slammed the 3 points through the thigh of his unsecured leg. Stone Skull screamed, choked, and then retched, barely turning his head to the side in time to avoid coating himself in his own vomit. "Do I have your undivided attention now, Stone Skull?" Kai asked, an edge to her tone. You do," Stone Skull panted. Kai's smile did not reach her eyes. "Who was with you on this platform, and where is the idol?" "His name is Tadaroth, but I swear to you, I don't know where he took it. Alls he told me is that he wanted some cargo off the Ocean Wanderer, and I'd get to kill the captain and take the ship for me troubles. I didn't know he'd run her aground. I didn't know he'd kill all the men I paid to help me deliver the ship and her cargo to him. You gotta believe me. I didn't know. Please, no more. I don't know any more. Please!" The Inquisitor knew that Stoneskull was being truthful. She was disgusted by how easy it was to break this man. It would be a mercy to send him to Naderu for judgment, she thought. As she contemplated what additional information she could coerce from Stoneskull, she heard Pia call her name. Startled, she turned around to see a gravely injured Chajek being carried like a baby in Jack's muscular arms, while Reynard and Pia, bloodied and ragged, walked on either side of her. Zephyr poked his head out from one of Pia's bags and squawked a greeting. "Kai Amari!" Pia scolded. "Just what is it that you think you're doing to that man?" "As Naderu wills," Kai responded coolly. She turned back to her captive. "I require nothing further from you, Stoneskull. You have been judged an enemy of Naderu, and your sentence is death. As promised, your honesty shall be rewarded." In one swift motion, Kai yanked her trident from his thigh and plunged it through his chest, killing him instantly. She then set about collecting her arrows, striving to hide her anger that Tadaroth had escaped with the statue, and her worry that she might not be able to find it again.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
You're listening to Big World Network.